was on petty offenders and said he was doing so to create space so that the CJ can fast track prosecution of VIP cases. Of course, VIPs who have been accused of graft. Now, the issue about corruption this week came to the fore with the State House Summit that was hosted by the President himself at State House, and his proclamation, or rather his comments, his remarks at that summit, that he has done all he can and there's nothing else to do. And it's that, I think it's Francis Kaparo, the chair of the NCIC, who said there seems to be a collective sense of helplessness in this fight against corruption. Do you think the President came back yesterday and actually gave us a solution, a way forward?
I think, Fred, let's just say this. I have been really reflecting about what are the drivers of corruption. And this is not a matter that we need to discuss with a lot of, casual, talk. It's a serious concern, Fred, because when I work with the people of Ruiru, when I work with people with disabilities and other special interest groups, like the intersex persons that I'm now trying to champion for their rights, you find layers and multi-layers of injustices. And when you look at the root cause of it, is actually corruption. Because corruption robs us of our future. And then it is now intertwined with tribalism, which robs us of a collective sense of purpose. Now, is there an incentive to corruption? And the answer is yes. Where does it lie? There is a very good nexus between social welfare in this country and corruption. If members of parliament, and I'm talking from the prism of a practicing parliamentarian, were to speak about the demands they get for money every day of their life, and that is not, sometimes they are very genuine concerns, but that kind of incentive perpetuates corruption, and that is why our development is unsustainable. So is there some sense of helplessness? I would want to say yes, and I think we've discussed this in the past. The way we have actually created the constitutional architecture, the formal state, we have a formal non-functional state and an informal functional state. When Fred in the Bullet, we are bombarded with demands for Harambes and monies that are even, yet our salaries are public. It doesn't matter who becomes the president, that I can assure you. Because if I feel it as a nominated MP who is aspiring to be elected, what if the president, what if the deputy president? There is a challenge. There is a challenge of helplessness, and I think we have become, we have been promoted to the highest level of incompetence, the Peter principle, not Peter Kaluma, the Peter principle, through the fact that we have a very robust constitution. If you look at what they were saying in the summit, everybody is claiming to be independent. I am independent. Oh, don't encroach on my mandate. Then eventually this miscarriage of justice, Kenyans have even come to know that you have to wait for at least 2 years before any case can be heard. And after that people move on, people forget quite easily. So yes, there is that sense of helplessness. And I think if today, even if you are to, and I agree with the president, because he was saying, do you need to hire a firing squad and we go to Uhuru Park? Whatever Duterte is doing in Philippines.
But surely, Senator, when the president comes out and says there's nothing else he can do, now what are we left to do as a country? Where do we go?
Remove him. He is very honest.
I think in the Muli, we must really be worried that all the Mashujaa celebrations yesterday, all the good that was there, was actually clouded with corruption. You can see the headlines, and we missed the good mentions of Mashujaa that were done by the president. We missed the honoring of Mashujaa. We missed everything else and picked corruption. And I think as a country, honesty is very key. One, we must also appreciate that the time of imperial presidency is over. We don't have an all-powerful president who can fire the CJ, who can fire the judiciary. In fact, the same, if you ask the court brigade led by Kaluma, there's a time when there was an issue between the Ministry of Lands and the Land Commission. You saw the noise that was made in Parliament, that the Commission is independent, you don't touch the work of the Commission. And I think this is what we are dealing with, the different institutions that are created to deal with the corruption, because it's not one institution. Just last week, we had a major meeting, in fact it's this week, we had a major meeting in the Senate as the Public Accounts and Investment Committee. We were meeting the EACC, we were meeting the DPP, we were meeting the DCI, and we were hoping to meet the CJ, of course, after his swearing in. Why were we doing that? Because we have plucked issues of corruption, even in the county government, flagged it for prosecution, but nothing is done. What do we expect the president to do? Has he done his part? I would say clearly, very well, he has done his part, because he's one president who has actually taken a bold step to actually remove CSs that he appointed. I think that has to be commended, that he has taken a step. And I think we forget very quickly, like the executives in Nyeri, you were very excited when they were actually given a jail term or a fine. And what we saw the following day are actually even some members of parliament taking Uji and Nyamachoma to them in the cells. And that really is a psych of our country, that if in the Muli, today you are found to be guilty, you will have a brigade of your nation or your people coming to see you and pledge loyalty. And I think that is where we have come. We have come as a country. So I think this war is not a one-man show. The president cannot direct the judiciary. The president can only actually ask the judiciary, because even in the nomination, he really does not have the power to change.
Lydia, I would therefore say
done by the
that Uhuru Kenyatta, as he campaigns for re-election next year, he cannot really say that, yes, re-elect me, I will fight corruption, because he's just told us, I'm unable to do this.
You know, in every institution there is one person who is in charge. He's in charge, but the constitution that we passed does not give him the mandate to actually fire and hire. Just like he said, I cannot even hire you and I cannot fire you. But that's the constitution. That's what we gave, so that the parliament and other institutions are the ones that are powerful. However, we do not want to take corruption lightly. He was very frustrated at the summit, but he's almost making it look like it's a joke. For me, corruption is not a joke. So the president needs to come out a bit more strongly that he's in charge, and these guys are answerable to the people of Kenya. Kenya is about the people. We are the ones who dictate, and the president is going for elections in the next few months, and he's going for elections in the next few months, and he needed to show us that if I get in 2017, I'll continue my war, because he has been at war. We want to give him the, he's been doing well. Where corruption is concerned, Vladimir Putin said, if you want to fight corruption, you must be clean yourself. For me, I would say the president has been clean, but his institutions have not, and the institutions are under him. He is the sole leader. He is in charge, but he doesn't have what the Moi era had in presidency. He doesn't have even what Kibaki had. A lot has been taken away from him. I don't want to say that we would want to change the constitution so that we give the presidency power, but his position where he's sitting, he doesn't have the power to actually do some other thing.
Are we saying that the best the president can do is release petty offenders to create room for the judiciary to do their job and actually put more people in prison?
By the way, the people who were released, Fred, are not petty offenders. I heard the president say casually that he has released cattle thieves and others. Stock theft is a felony, not a misdemeanor. Those are very serious issues. But let me go to where it matters. You know, Fred, we are losing so much to corruption, and I'm tired of saying it. If you look at the report of the Auditor General, the last one on our corruption index, it did indicate that up to a third of our national budget is seepaged to corruption at both levels of government, the national level and of course the county level. Now, a third of a budget of 2.3 trillion is over 700 billion. That is over 20 times the entire CDF allocation for the nation in a year. It's too much money, I can tell you. Our debt burden as a nation, from the time Jubilee came in, you remember it was 1.37 trillion. Now we are approaching 4 trillion. What does it mean? That our foreign debt obligation or burden is double our national budget. We are living so far beyond our means. And this debt, what will pain you is that you are being told that a third of these monies are going into the pockets of individuals. I want to say that what the president is doing is diversionary. And let me say this because Maura knows I sit in Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. When we were dealing with the removal of Mumo Matemu and his team, I did request the committee that we have a meeting with the president, a bipartisan meeting of all members of the committee. Because I was telling my colleagues in Jubilee that, you know, there are some things you may not tell the president. But as an opposition MP, there are things I would tell him without any political consequences. Of course, that did not materialize. The Jubilee team went alone and they came back and removed Matemu. What we meant to tell him is that the networks of corruption in the country are so deep. In fact, they have a root in State House, they have a root in OP, they have a root in the legal sector, they have a root in the law society. It is such a well-protected and well-organized cartel around. And you know, these are things, you know, the Jubilee people will not tell him. We wanted to go and tell him, so-and-so in your State House is the network, the cartel have within you. So it becomes very bad, Fred, when you hear the president saying the judiciary is to blame. You know, the judiciary does not decide who is to be charged in court or who is to be taken to court. That's not the work of the judiciary. The judiciary does not determine what charges are brought against whoever is taken to court. I may be taken to court, like Josephine Kavura was telling you the other day, with a phony case to collapse. I mean, it is not the judiciary to draw the charges. It is not the judiciary to prosecute those charges. There is a whole, you know, chain of institutions we have created. You have the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, who has the best hand in appointing them. You have the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Fred, let me tell you, this joke that the president is helpless should get out of our papers.
Yes. But
when the president wanted to remove Matemu and his team from office, he did it. And ultimately, you remember, Matemu resigned. We know the circumstances under which he resigned. He was told to resign. When a president calls you as a public officer and tells you, Fred, today that I need your resignation, would you refuse? I mean, when the president wanted Kinisu to go, he had his team in parliament. Kinisu went, he resigned. Yes. And of course, there is something which has happened, my sister Ongari, that you should look at very keenly. No well-meaning, distinguished Kenyan is willing to apply to be the chair of the commission. Why? They are saying we don't want to dirty our career, our beautiful, you know, professions over, you know, a position which the state is not serious about. So me, I would say that this Jubilee thing is a kleptocracy. Yes. You know, a government of thieves by thieves for thieves.
I want to say something about
that. Is what a kleptocracy is. And really, if you're waiting for Uhuru Kenyatta, if you're waiting for Uhuru Kenyatta, our president, to fight corruption, you're wasting time.
I think it's important. It's important that we are very honest and straightforward. The same way Kaluma says very well that it is not the judiciary that draws the sheet of charges. It's definitely not the president who does that. It is the institutions we're talking about. And the roots that Mheshimiwa is talking about of corruption, rooted in judiciary, rooted in OP, are also even in their people, in COD. And we saw it even during the NYS camp.
Going around this panel, and we're back to the same place.
The thing is...
helplessness.
We can't be helpless. You know...
The institutions, we made them ourselves. We were in the constitution-making process. You know, if today, even if Uhuru or the president calls Maraga, or the former CJ, and he decides...
He can't call the judiciary. The judiciary has no business.
Separation of powers. We won't expect him to meddle in institutions.
Make a sentence.
We expect him to crack the whip.
Fred, let me make a sentence. You know, let us focus this thing. You must look at the appointment process for the EACC commissioners. But this is the one commission we permitted by law, an amendment to the law in 2015 when we removed Mumo Matemu and others, the president to wholly appoint. We said the president will sit down as against the previous provisions which required a selection panel from religious bodies and other institutions specified, over 19 of them. We deleted all that and we told the president, you will put in place a selection panel of your choosing and have people of your choosing to be in the commission. So this pretense that the president does not know how people go to EACC and he can do nothing.
Where we are right now is the president says it's the judiciary's job. Some were saying it's the EACC. Where does it pass?
Let me say this. Sometimes we really pretend as a country. We just get the leaders we deserve. Yeah, we are corrupt. We are extremely corrupt, and we must accept. And by the way, Kaluma, this is not about CORD or Jubilee, because then we should be seeing a conference of excellence in CORD-led counties.
Which are the majority?
Which are the majority?
Oh, we are doing very well. Where does the buck stop?
I'm so therefore, Fred, then half of the country would be thriving in meritocracy and transparency and accountability, which is not the case anyway. We are extremely corrupt people. And I have said, and I think I like the way, Peter, you put across the issue of the budget. The person who is going to take over as president in 2022 will have a serious challenge. We are living way beyond our means. Maybe just to put it a bit, in my perspective, our national debt is now half our GDP.
Yes. Our
GDP is 6 trillion. You see? Which is actually very interesting. If you look at the American economy you are to compare, it's about 1,011 times. We are such a small, we are a $20 billion national budget. And we are borrowing a lot. 500 billion on average per year. Because if you look at the collection that we are having, is 1.3 trillion or thereabout, which is disputable, by the way, because KRA sometimes does not declare really what they collect. But we have a budget of 2.1 trillion. Reason being, when devolution came, instead of scaling down the executive expenditure, we just increased another 300 billion on top. So going forward, there is something fundamentally wrong with our budget making process, because it is not people-centered. It is civil servant-centered, it is incremental, it is for empire building. When you look at what is being procured or what is requisitioned for, it is not for Wanjiko. So going forward, my take would be like this. Honestly, as Mother has said, we don't have an imperial president who can fire people.
Yes, we don't.
Our institutions have failed. If you look at LSK trying to say, oh no, it's not the judiciary, it's the DPP.
Yes.
So by the end of the day, we must ask ourselves whether really we want to take a country.
There's too much. These are members of the National Assembly.
These are members. I want to talk as a Wanjiko.
And they're not giving us any solution
right now. Let me
now.
talk as Wanjiko. These problems have to be sorted out from the root cause. Where is Kenyans? We are all corrupt.
That's true.
When you walk out of here, you want to give the watchman something to let you come in. When you go somewhere, you just want to pay for everything because it is what you're taught. It starts from the top right to the bottom. The president is not an imperial president. That's true. But even then, he needs to be able to be above the rest of us and say so, and start from there and show direction, give us direction. The truth is the judiciary is not to blame. But even the judiciary, even the judiciary is corrupt. No, even the judiciary is corrupt.
No, he's not.
Even the judiciary is corrupt. Because the truth is, there is nobody. How many cases have we had of judges who have been removed? Kaluma, you're a lawyer. How many cases judges have been removed on cases of corruption?
So many.
They've been removed on cases of corruption. It is up to the prosecution also to prove cases beyond reasonable doubt, which sometimes they don't do. So the judiciary is sitting here, can't prove, the case has not been proved by the prosecution to be beyond reasonable doubt, and therefore the judiciary can do nothing and releases these corrupt people. So even as the president Uhuru is standing and saying, I have fired people because you've said so, these people have been let go, and now for 2 years there's been no justice, because justice delayed is justice denied. Indeed. However, the corruption is in the root of the Kenyan society.
So back to my point,
we have to start from Wanjiko. And these members of parliament, and me, I'll get there in 2017, we need to start sorting things out.
That is where I wanted us to go. Because we have a parliament and we have members of the National Assembly and the Senate seated here telling us, yes, as the president said, he is probably right, that there's nothing we can do. So as Mwananchi watching this show and watching this panel of honorable members of parliament, what is the take home?
I think
that yes, the president is right and we have nothing we can do about this corruption.
The issue is the Mwananchi is also not as innocent. You know, we try to romanticize with the voter. The voter is very corrupt. If you go out there, they will ask you, hata za macho. When zinatoka wapi? People must be able to directly link their demands with corruption. These are people who know your public salary. They know you as a member of parliament, Isaac Moro, you earn this. But they want you to come to a Harambee and give more than half of what you are earning, and yet they have other demands.
And only to one Harambe,
Exactly.
you give so much.
So Kenyans, let's not be hypocritical here. Is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta corrupt? No. He's not been accused of any corruption. We've not had him in any scandal. Not unless Kaluma would want to tell us. For me, what I know is the president has actually the clearest of intentions. And you know, sometimes when you are at the top, people think that when you're at the top, then you can do it. But then you realize you need the people down to help. These are institutions. We said we cannot trust individuals anymore because of the Moi legacy. Now those institutions are failing us. The constitutional commissions are failing us. The moment you go and take Kaluma to court today, on accusing him of corruption, you'll find all the people who are saying, "Sisi watu wa Homali to now never." The problem.
But
is
I
the
think
people.
going forward in the Muli, maybe before Kaluma, I don't think it's all lost really, because I think we have made very serious steps, even in the judiciary, in prosecution of these cases. We had the Nyeri case. For me, it's a landmark ruling. Whether or not it sends a message, that's a different thing, because we forget easily. Today we are dealing with the issue of the former MP Paris Mam on CDF corruption. So this high-profile prosecution and convictions are also gaining ground. If you look at the impeachment process in the Senate and in the country for the governors, you will also see that what we had during Wambora case is different from what we had recently in the Moranga case. Because even the judiciary has set the agenda and made a clear intention that the process has to be fairly done and has to be done by the institutions that are mandated to. If you see what Wambora's case had, actually the court gave an injunction, you know, and it did not continue. In fact, the Senate says Wambora was a governor of the court. But today, if you go and get an impeachment, if the process of, like the Kidero case, unless you're challenging the process of how the collection of signatures was done, the judiciary has generally said the process goes on, generally. So I think going forward, these convictions is what we need. And the laws are there. We don't have a shortage of laws in this country. We have so many. It is a judge really to choose, because it's the only place
I
where...
want to differ with
you know,
it is not a judge. It is on the prosecution to prove beyond reasonable doubt. It is not the judge.
That is the thing.
The judge, if you're
proven,
sitting here and then somebody is coming to tell you this is black and you can see it's white, really, how do you crucify somebody?
That is why I'm saying in the Muli, it is really a synergy.
And
of
yes, true.
It is not the judiciary alone.
I want, as we wrap up this, I'll come back to you and ask you the question. If you're asked the one person or institution that you think or you believe that is where the buck stops in as far as fighting corruption in Kenya is concerned, I'll ask you that so you can think about it. But Bwana Kaluma.
Yes, Fred, you know the president is the moral beacon of the state. In fact, that is why he's the head of state. A state moves according to the thinking and the vision of the president. And of course, as the top leadership all over the world, you know, that is what happens. And this is the reason we have cushioned President Uhuru Kenyatta, you know, so much. You know, Fred, there is something people are not being told in, you know, this budget and corruption issue. When President Mwai Kibaki was leaving office, the budget of State House was 1.3 billion, maximum budget, the budget with which he left office. In 3 years, we've increased President Uhuru Kenyatta's budget from that 1.3, which was Mwai Kibaki's last, to over 10.4 billion. So essentially, we've given him enough resources to cushion him from the temptation to be corrupt, so that he does not engage in corruption. He shows us the direction. Unfortunately, the system around him does not understand how corruption works, and of course he's been duped to believe it is the judiciary. Let me offer a solution. In terms of the legislative architecture around the fight against corruption, we have created a commission under Chapter 6 of our Constitution. We've created a commission by law, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. I think we made a mistake as a people, and more so as Parliament, when, you know, last year we amended this law to give the President the sole power to constitute, you know, the commission as a Wales. Previously we had bodies, just like the current IEBC proposal, about 19 institutions which are to nominate people to be in the selection panel. You know, when you have now a selection panel which a legislation says the President will appoint as a Wales, and then these people are working for him, and then he appoints people, you shift the burden over the institution to, you know, the president. So you deny the institution independence. So first and foremost is that we need to look at that. And then another weakness we brought in that law, and let me say this very soberly, is that we've created a commission to deal with matters of ethics and integrity, but we've merely made it an investigation body. You know, in the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commissions Act, they investigate. They have to report to the Director of Public Prosecutions. And the DPP will determine whether the investigations are sufficient. Invariably, you've seen something which brings me to answer the question my sister Lydia was struggling to respond to. You've seen the DPP say, even before investigation starts, Fred, that have ordered EACC to investigate Wangari. You know, EACC is an independent commission. The DPP cannot direct it, more so before investigations. The DPP can only order further investigations when once a matter is in court, he sees some gaps which he needs to be filled. So he can direct, would you investigate for me? But not initially. What the DPP is doing, and it does not require rocket science, is essentially telling Kaluma, who is to be investigated, don't waste time dealing with you know, EACC. Come and deal to me. They'll report to me. So what we need to deal with is remove this idea that the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has to report to DPP, and give the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission the power to proceed with investigations and prosecutions straight away, so that EACC does not tell us it is DPP. Let us not blame then the judiciary. And I've said this as a lawyer. Remember, when you go before judges,
we are the ones to do it.
When you go before judges and magistrates, we talk about the blind goddess of justice. It is not the work of a judge to convict you. It is the work of a judge to hold the scales of justice between the parties. Is it fair? Is there a case? And judges will, of course, you know, proceed on evidence, facts, and law. If it is not there, it is not there. And let us agree, if there is no case against you, a judge or a magistrate should not just convict you and jail you. It is unfair. So this thing is, from the level of parliament, let us do what Mwaura said. Let us have budget spread.
Are you saying, Kaluma, that the buck stops with parliament as the situation stands right now?
No. What I'm saying is that there is so much parliament can do in terms of making, you know, corruption easy to track. Two things. One is go the Mwaura way. Let us have itemized budget. You get it? A people-centered budget. You know, to date we have devolved health 99%. But the health ministry is getting so much. Remember in 2014-2015 budget, Mwaura, over 25 billion could not be accounted for in the health ministry alone. So let us have itemized budget. That way you can easily track them. Then number two, let us look at the whole law and architecture around the fight against corruption and deal with it. And then let us hold these officers to account.
I need a definite answer, but first we'll take a short break because this will go on and on. But I need a definite answer, because when the president says